Hello, Black women. Today we are talking about healing from the outside in, body image, social messaging, and self worth. I have a guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself shortly. But before we start, hey everyone, my name is Roshini. I am a content creator. I'm a special needs mom. I am a healing journey coach for Black and West Indian women on a healing journey. And I'm also a Black woman healing. If the content for today sounds interesting to you, hit the like button, share, and subscribe on YouTube. And welcome to my guest, Evie Scott. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Glamazzini Pineapple people. My name is Evie Scott. I am here on YouTube. I'm here on YouTube, but in real life, I am a writer / other things, an artist. I wrote a book a couple of years ago about my experiences of surviving New York and adulting and the lessons that I learned and stories along the way. It's called Surviving Liberty. I don't know if I said that already. And primarily, my YouTube channel is to speak about the things that I've learned on my health journey of over 21 years of losing over 100 pounds and maintaining it, and all the lessons that I've learned along the way and all of the things that I've discovered about body image and wellness and health in that journey and on that road.
Okay, so let me tell y'all a secret. I'm going to tell y'all a secret. First of all, Evie is a regular in my comment section. Okay, she's a regular in my comment section. And it's so apropos that we're about to talk about this topic because two things. One, I remember her from my comment section because of why? What do I remember you about?
My white hair, which you don't see on today.
Which you don't see. Okay, her hair is beautiful. Okay, and I don't know if she sees what I see, but it's beautiful. And two, Evie and I got on a Zoom call a few days ago, ran our mouths for hours. And then right before this call, we were just talking for 15 minutes. And I was like, we need to start recording because we're going to say all the good stuff before we get out here on the internet. Okay. So we're going to talk about body image today. And both of us have a lot of thoughts on the matter. So we're just going to get into it. Evie, I want you to just tell everybody about your weight loss journey and what that was like.
Okay. So just beginning at the beginning, I started gaining weight probably around 6 or 7 years old. There was a lot going on, a lot of traumatic things happening at once. And so I really feel like that was my body's way of reacting to stress and all of the things. And so probably in second grade, I was like 100 pounds. I went up to 100 pounds. And then by the time I went to middle school, I was 170 pounds, but I also had a growth spurt. So it wasn't crazy, but it also was I was weighing too much. And then by the time I got to junior high school, I was about 225, 250. And then by high school, at my highest weight, I was about 280. And so my health journey started my freshman year of college. I started going to the gym in my school's infirmary, whatever it was called. The gym at my university. I started going there. And when I started, I could barely do 10 minutes on the elliptical. I thought I was going to die. But I was like, okay, we're gonna go up from here. The next time I come out, because I couldn't go every day. I went every other day. I'll do 11 minutes. And so it was adding a minute every time I went to the gym. And so what inspired the journey was an episode of Oprah where someone had to pull themselves up a mountain to save their lives or something. I would never be on the side of a mountain, first of all. But in my 18-year-old mind, it was oh, this is something that you need to take care of. And I was up until this point, it probably wasn't my fault that I was had so much excess weight. But I thought I was an adult at 18. I said, I'm an adult now, and it's my responsibility to take care of this. And so I started doing research on the internet and figuring out workouts and eating plans and all these things. And it started from there. And so by the time that was spring break of my freshman year of college, by the time I went home for summer break, I had lost 20 pounds. And then that summer, I lost another 20 pounds. And then by fall, I lost another 20 pounds. So I lost 60 pounds in a matter of months. And then the rest of the weight kind of came off over years of different things. But it's really been a journey. I'm so grateful that it happened slowly because I didn't have a lot of the things with excess skin and all of these things that come with major weight loss. And I've also learned so much. And so that was 21 years and some change ago that started. And I just have learned so much and also have been able to help other people on their journeys. And that's one of my life's greatest joys, hearing someone tell me that something that some advice that I gave them or some a tip that I gave them on how to improve their health or, take down their numbers as far as diabetes, help them, and their doctors say their numbers look great. Like, that really excites me. So, yeah.
Okay, so I had a few questions. One of them you already kind of answered. I was going to ask how old you were or like how long ago. You said 20 something years. So black does not crack is the first thing I'm going to say.
Oh, I'll be 40 in a couple of days.
In a couple of days. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I'm like a lot of people like 40. I'm like, yes, 40, yes. Because I know when I turned 30, I was like, 29 was like a basket case. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I don't have a husband, I don't have no kids, I don't have this, I don't have that when I was turning 30. And when I turned 30, it was like a light switch, like, I'm okay. Like,
yeah, there's a expectation space in the 20s and the 30s and an existential crisis. And then by the 40s, you're like, oh my God, I totally get to recreate this. It's great up here. I'm actually at 48. So
I mean, the black and the not crackingness, like, I'm like, wait, like, it's like a disassociation that happens. Like, when you say you're 48, I'm like, huh? Like, every time, even though you've been saying this and I've been knowing that for some time, every time you say it, I'm like, I know math, but also that doesn't track.
Yeah, no, 48. I had to, during the pandemic, I got a little confused and was saying the wrong age. I was.
Listen, we all can take some years off.
I was telling people I was 46 at one point and I was 45. I didn't remember what age I was, but I did the math. I did the calculations. Okay, so that was the first question. The second question was, and this is going to be a strange one, but how tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
5'9". Okay, because when you were saying your weight, okay, so this is interesting because I'm 6'1", right? And you said you were like 170 something in middle school, and I was 164 when I was 10. But I was also 5'8" and a half. And so the way it presented on me, I've always been tall and thin.
Right.
It's like I've always been tall. Like I'm 200 plus right now. I'm 200.
Which people don't, you just said it like Kev. People don't like, and this is why I feel like, because Layla Ali was the person who kind of set me free. Like, I knew that I wasn't crazy because, like, at my lowest weight, when I looked like a bobblehead and I probably needed to gain some weight, I was 165, 170. And I looked crazy. And so the idea, and even this whole BMI thing that people follow, I don't think it tracks for most black people. Like, I'm not supposed to be nowhere near 130 pounds, 150 pounds. Like, I would look like a skeleton. And so I think I appreciate your honesty, and I wish people would be more upfront with that so people know, especially like young girls who don't know yet. Like, you're not supposed to be 120 pounds. It's a lot of people out here 200 looking like people, looking like something people want to see. And so,
That's interesting. Yeah, that's why I wanted to know, because when you said the number, I was just like, I was right around the same thing. But I was like, she has to be a bit shorter than me then for it to present as overweight or heavy on her.
No, but I was 11. And so, like, when I was 170, I was 11. And I distinctly remember this because we had to, like, get weight. Oh, I don't know why they do this.
That's why I know the date. That's why I know the weight and the height. We had to get weight at school.
But in front of everyone. And so this girl was like, oh, everybody, like, she was asking everybody out there got weighed, were they 150 or under? And so I lied. And I'm not a liar. I've never been a liar. But I just felt in that moment, it was personal. And I was like, to preserve something, I had to say, I was like, oh, yeah, even though it said 170. And this girl, Siobhan, who was 150, but was very short, so it presented differently, going to say, no way, you 170. And I was just like, it just hurt me. But I also was like, the girl, like, come on now, your 150 and my 70 are different. Don't do this. But I feel like she needed to prove a point.
That's so interesting because, like, I told Evie, I was like, girl, we are just gonna have a conversation out here because our previous conversations were so interesting that this is gonna be helpful to anybody on a wellness journey, right? The interesting thing is my recollection, you just described like a little bit of like a shame preservation thing in your I had to be weighed in front of everybody's experience. Yeah. So it was the same thing. We had to be weighed. There was like a stage in our gym and you went up on the stage and got weighed on the stage. And I remember I was 164, 5'8" and a half. And I remember being very proud of the fact that I was taller than everyone.
Oh, I love that.
Teachers, principal. I was the tallest human in the school, the whole elementary school. Yeah, girl. So my experience was like a positive one where I was just like, like the fact that I was 160 something didn't even register to me as a positive or a negative. It registered as a number.
I love that. And you
Isn't
know
that
what?
fascinating?
Even the height thing, like I didn't start being like proud of my height until my 30s. Like I
Yeah.
really literally I feel like I physically used to shrink. Like because I was taller than everybody, people made me feel a way about it. And it's weird because my mom is short. My mom is 5'2", but my dad is 6'5", and my sister's 5'11", and she's younger than me. So I am surrounded by tall people, but still I felt the need to shrink, like cower. And it's not until my 30s where I was like, oh no, this is where it's at. Like I feel like it's a layer of one, protection, which that's a whole nother conversation. But I love being tall now.
Right. And that goes to the social messaging, because once again, you just shared that for you, tallness, people used to tease you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to sound off. People used to try to tease me. Like there was a guy that used to call me Mommy Long Legs when we were in elementary school.
Wow.
And I thought he was an idiot. And then he was proven an idiot many years later when he tried to hit on me when we were adults. And I was just like, I mean, you like the legs now. So, but I think what you proved was, once again, messaging, because my mom is a tall woman. My mom is 5'11", and wait, is she 5'11"? She's 5'11".
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was shorter than her.
Okay.
So I grew up with a totally different social construct in my house of even male and female height and what was plausible.
Right.
And my mom used to be teased when she was growing up. So she kind of has this going on. And so my whole first of all, she put me in dance classes, but my whole upbringing, my mother would be like, put your shoulders back, put your shoulders back. I've always been like upright and erect, almost to a fault, like people. So once again, you got like messaging by being teased. As also, my mother told me flat out that people were jealous of me and I was statuesque. She used to be gassing me up. That lady used to gas me up, and I believed her. Okay, so it wasn't until I got older, I was sitting on the couch watching Dr. Phil, and I saw this girl talking about being teased and traumatized about being taller in her 20s, and I remember thinking,
that's odd.
Listen, I was all an adult, and I was just like, why would she care about that? And then it wasn't, I kid you not, I was like, oh, that's a thing that I could have totally picked up, but I didn't.
Yeah. And it's probably because your mom, that's wonderful. And, you know, I feel like maybe, I don't know why it reminded me of like, you know, the difference between when mixed kids have the black mom or white mom, where the, like, but anyway,
you brought that up on the internet. About that out here.
No, we don't need to, but it just reminded me of that.
I know exactly what you mean, though.
No, and that's, yeah, my mom is short, and so I don't feel like she had that same awareness to even like, you know, affirm us in our height. Yeah. Interesting.
And my dad was affirming too, because clearly he likes tall women, right? So you grow up in a house with a man that's like, my wife is the best thing walking, and then you get a daughter that shoots up above him, and he's just like, and also you. Yeah, he used to be like, ma'am, you also. And I was like, thank you very much. Like that's, and so it wasn't even until I got older that I was like, oh, that's a thing that I'm supposed to be. I mean, I knew my mom said she got teased, but she, you know, she kind of like counteracted it. Okay, so I want to talk about your weight loss and some of the things I've heard you talk about on your page concerning pretty privilege, what you were talking about earlier about like that transition from being a person walking through the world perceived as overweight to being a person walking through the world perceived as like middleweight. We couldn't really figure out the word, to being a person walking through the world perceived as beautiful. Can you talk about that?
So that was it was quite a transition, and I think I was probably in denial along the way. And it sometimes took other people saying something to me like, you know, and I'm like, huh? Like, and I think even now I still, I'm not always aware of things, because I think when you're so used to filtering out negative, or like you have a wall up, you're filtering out the negative and the positive. And so you're not receptive to any of it. So anyway, I think so around probably, so I started my weight loss journey at 18. And so probably around like 2021 was when I felt like, okay, this is different. And I distinctly remember the moment. I was walking down the street. We were going to Italy to see my sister because she was doing a year there. And we were going to Italy. I was walking down the street from JFK. I forget where I was going. And this guy was like, stopped me in the street. He was like, "You're beautiful," and it was like nobody outside my family had ever said that to me.
Wait, and how old were you?
I was 20 or 21.
Okay, so for 20 years, this man on the street was the first person that has said that to you.
Outside of my family.
Outside of your family. Okay, got it.
And so I was like, that was weird. And I was like, but it didn't occur to me that it was true. It was just like, that was strange. But I did start, I remember distinctly walking with my head a little bit taller and a little extra sachet. And so then maybe a couple years later, I moved to New York and I lost maybe 20, 25 pounds. Mm-hmm. And just from the hustle in New York, I wasn't even trying. Just the walking up and down the stairs and not having AC in the first apartment I lived in New York, all the things. And so then I became like, people were walking up to me, "Are you a model?" All these things. I'm just like, what? Who are you talking to? Like, I remember I was walking down the street from Target in my neighborhood in the Bronx, where I first lived in New York. And this guy was like, a pretty body, you got a pretty body and a pretty face. And I turned around to look to see who he was talking to. Because I was like, certainly this man is not, I literally was like, who? I was like, is he talking to me? And so it just was like a sobering thing. But I think, again, all of these experiences, but I think you are looking for experiences to confirm what you already believe about yourself. So because these did not align with what I believed about myself, which is like, okay, he's weird. Moving on. And so I don't think these are things that I accepted about myself until later.
So what did you believe about yourself?
I mean, I don't think I thought I was ugly. Here's the thing. To be honest, once I no longer had a double chin, you can tell me a lot. Like, once like the double chin went away and the face got a little bit snatched, I was like good money to myself in these streets. I didn't need to be beautiful. I just want to get rid of the double chin.
Okay.
So, and once I could cross my legs,
I've heard that. Okay, yeah. I know people are going to be mad at me for saying it this way because I am an innocent. I'm an innocent, but I have friends who have lost weight and all of them say the leg crossing thing. And I am like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's a thing. And the first time it happened for me was, so when I was 13 going on 14, I think my mom felt guilty about us being chunky. And so we went to a weight loss camp for the summer. And so I lost like 35 pounds. And that was the first time I was able to cross my legs. I gained all that weight back within a year. Mm-hmm. But I do remember this distinct moment from not being able to cross your legs to being able to cross your legs and feeling like a lady and feeling like, oh, this is like, now I'm a real woman or whatever. Because, you know, ladies cross their legs in movies and TV shows or whatever. And so, yeah.
You know what's fascinating having these conversations with you, Evie? One, exposure to things where I am literally ignorant. Because Evie and I were talking about how, okay, so let me preface this. First of all, y'all, I am not as brave as Evie has been, because Evie on the internet talking about pretty privilege, and I refuse. I refuse to talk about it, but she gonna make me touch it a little. I'm gonna touch it a little bit because back in the day when I would see people making videos about pretty privilege, and then I would see other people gaslighting them and telling them that pretty privilege didn't exist. I was like, that's a lie from the pits of hell, okay? Because I don't know if I called it pretty privilege. And I don't know if I have it now, but I know what I was living with back in the day. I was getting perks and benefits. Yeah. Okay, perks and benefits. So it's interesting because Evie's experience is a person who grew up like in her, like your experience is somebody who grew up without it and then like got it. My experience feels almost like a person that had it. And I don't want to say I lost it. It changed. It evolved into something else with age and parenting and all the things, right? And so it's fascinating when you point out certain things where I'm just like, when I tell you I was oblivious to the leg crossing thing until multiple people have kept bringing it up. And apparently that is a triumph that people are like, oh my God.
I made it.
Right. And you know what? Think about the messaging of femininity in our society and the small things that you're excluded from because you're living in a larger body.
Yep. And literally, and I was, so in my book, I talk about this instance where this was my first apartment in New York, and it was a weird situation. But anyway, and this guy that I didn't know, he ended up saying, "You ain't a real girl." this is a whole long story that I don't need to go into. And it just made me start thinking, I was like, what does that mean? What does it to mean be a real girl? And I was like, because I'm not wearing a dress or heels, like I'm not a real girl. And so I feel like that was part of the evolution of my determining what womanhood and femininity looked like for me, because I think growing up, when you don't have access to the same clothes that everybody has access to, and so you kind of just have to piecemeal your style and like figure out your way of expressing your femininity or expressing that you are attracted to women to men through your clothing, this is a whole layered.
And listen, that's a lot. You just brought up a lot, because in my mind, you know what I thought? I thought, man, and back in the day, because she just told us how old she is, it wasn't like nowadays where it's a million plus size. And you know how I know that? Because I might not be plus size, but I'm tall.
Yes.
And talk about looking. I mean, girl, we looking for it and we can't find it. Everybody got the cute fill in the blanks. Everybody got the trends of the fill in the blanks. And me and my gigantic feet.
Girl, we won't even get into that's a whole nother conversation.
And my legs are outside looking in. I'm looking at everybody else, wishing I could have the jacket and the shoes. They don't make them in, and that's still something that I deal with.
Right now. Same. And I know that's why I have so many shoes, because I did not have access to shoes when I was younger. I have too many shoes. But I know that part of that is like kind of making up for what I didn't have when I was younger. We did have Payless, and we blessed that, because Payless did go up to like, they went up to our size. But, Payless, those shoes left some things to be desired. But, as far as support and like, longevity. But we did have some options, but not the options that we have now.
Right. Yeah. So I could just imagine. Once again, you have enlightened me to something that I have an adjacent experience to, which is, like you said, I'm trying to make sure the boys know I want, I'm out here. I'm trying to get my milkshake to bring all the boys to the yard, and this milkshake it don't come in my size.
We had one store, Marianne's, and I remember I don't know if it was specific to DC. I'm from DC.
No, girl, it had a Marianne in the Virgin Islands, because I used to go down there after school and live in there.
Yes. But I feel like they closed like right on the cusp of high school. I was like, I needed you. Yeah. When I really needed you, this is when you disappeared. And so Lane Bryant, we're thankful for Lane Bryant, but like, why is the shirt down to my knees? Like, I would also, yes, bigger, but not longer. I don't need all of that material. So yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay. So you're fifth, you go away to camp, you come back, you lose the weight, you gain the weight. Well, you lose the weight, you have this like aha moment of like, I can cross my legs. You gain the weight, and then a few years later you lose weight, and you go from feeling. Would you say you were invisible to men? Did you feel that way?
I do feel like I was invisible to men, except for the ones who wanted to be jerks to me. And I was hyper visible, especially in school. Like junior high school was a time for me. Like I feel like I'm still unpacking and healing from junior high stuff. But I was invisible.
Tell a little bit more about that, because I'm fascinated. So you were highly visible to trash men attempting what? Listen, I don't. What did I
do? So as we discussed before, I recognize now, or I consider now, that my hue and my hair texture, this is not my hair, but underneath my hair texture may have factored into how I was treated, and people sought to humble me when I was younger. I never thought anything of it, because in DC, where I'm from, there is especially growing up, there was a vast array of Blackness. I am not special looking or different looking where I'm from. And so the idea that like someone sees me as someone who's on a pedestal that then needs to be humbled is still weird. And so I do feel like now I can consider that maybe is where some people were coming from. But also I just realized I was different. I'm from DC. My parents are not from DC. I don't sound like someone from DC in particular. I don't dress like someone from DC in particular. I don't necessarily express myself, et cetera, et cetera. And so what I now see, what I thought back then was because I was fat. Now I realize it's like, no, it's because you was different. And people's like, oh, she ain't from around here. Like.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is you definitely clocked that you were being treated poorly or treated
Yes.
differently. And you assigned all of that to weight. But you're realizing now in hindsight that some of that was colorism, some of it was possibly texturism. What you got up there? Loose texture? You got loose texture of hair?
It's 3s, 4s, 3
It's a little
4s.
Indian in the family. It's a little
No,
no.
the DNA test says it's a lie. This is what the rumor had been for years, but the DNA test said it's a lie. Because there are some African people with a looser texture curl, and that must be where mine came from.
Absolute facts. Okay, that is facts. Okay,
that must be where mine came from, because the DNA test said ain't no Indian in your family.
Ain't no Indian in there. Okay, so there was some colorism. You had a bit of texturism going on, or misunderstanding.
I think misunderstanding is a fair word.
Of texturism, and there was just a lot to unpack when it came to your physicality and how people were treating you.
And I think also, because it was the thing that I think you there's messaging that you send out just on the way, based on how you carry yourself, to other people about what it is that you don't like about yourself. And I think because people are like, oh, I don't like her, I don't know why I don't like her, but since you don't like that, let's speak to that. And so I think people can feel or perceive what it is that you don't like about yourself, and if they mean you ill, they can then grab onto that and have a
I agree. I think I believe that too, because just my own personal experience with things that I have either been ignorant to the fact that I was supposed to perceive it as a negative, and then later found out, but at that point I had already gotten all kind of positive results, because I was like, oh, nobody told me. Like the height, I was like, it never dawned on me that being okay, so let me tell people my height so they don't know. I'm 6'1" right now, okay? I hit 5'8.5" by my 10th birthday, like right after my 10th birthday. And I grew 3 inches over the summer. So by the time I went to middle school, I was 5'11.5", grew a half an inch, was 6 foot all the way through first or second year of college. Went to the nurse's office. She told me I was 6'1". I was like, that's weird, because I've been achy and my pants are shorter. So I am 6'1". So I've been 6'1" since college, right? Yeah. 6 foot since 7th grade. Never dawned on me that was an issue. It wasn't until later, especially when I came up here to the States. Especially when I came up, thank God, if I'm being honest. Oh, thank you, Jesus, for the Caribbean. Yeah. Hallelujah. Girl, he kept me. I felt that, because they probably would have dragged my body image and my mental health and self-perception for film.
100%.
Okay. I was a tall, gangly, dark-skinned girl, and I saw not a daggone thing wrong with it. Yeah. The most that I remember hearing growing up was that my lighter complexioned cousins were potentially prettier than me. Nobody said it to me, but like the perception, there was definitely colorism.
Messaging. Yeah.
There was messaging. And I have most of my mom's side of the family specifically are tall and very light complexion, brown hair, they got some green eyes and all that kind of stuff. And then on my dad's side is dark skin and short, right? Stocky, dark skin and short. So I'm like a mix of both. And I just remember rejecting that entirely. Yeah. I remember telling you, I looked in the mirror when I was who I remember looking in the mirror when I was like 14, and something had happened, light skin, something, you know how people, all the kids, whatever. Yeah. And I remember looking in the mirror when I was 14 in the bathroom in our house and thinking, but I can see myself.
Do you see what I see?
I don't know who put that. It might have been my mother. I don't know who put that in my spirit. I was just, and it wasn't even like they're ugly, I'm pretty. It was like there's no way you're gonna tell me just because they're lighter complexion, they're prettier than me when I can see me out my eyeballs. Right. And I just went out into the world that way. And it's funny that you just said that you think people can pick up on those kind of things, because now you have me wondering if, because I was walking around with that messaging in my head, even if somebody wanted to tell me something, I wasn't probably giving off the message of somebody that would receive it.
It's like Tabitha Brown. She's like, try to tell me something today. Try to tell me something.
Delusional. Yeah. They were delusional. Like literally, my mother literally told me, if somebody teases you about your height, they're jealous because you are statuesque. I remember I looked up the word statuesque because I needed to know what it meant.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I was like, that is what I am. Okay, so anybody who said anything, including Kelvin, who used to call me Mommy Longlegs, I put his name out there, okay? I used to just be looking at him like, what, you just jealous. Like, it was, it was just, and then like,
well, you know what? My dad did tell me that about my lips, because I used to get teased about my lips, and my dad used to say they're just jealous. And I don't know why I retained that and not other things. But like, I have never had an issue with my lips. Like, I've always been like, oh, that's a feature that I enjoy in myself, regardless of, I mean, up until adulthood, still people want to say, I'm like, please.
But you know what? Maybe you have a point, like we just said, because there was a positive message given to us in certain spaces. And in those spaces, that message like anchored us.
Because what he said to me is, people pay for lips like yours. And when I looked around at like celebrities and I saw that like people got like lip fillers, not all of this, but got lip fillers to increase what they, I was like, that's actually, I mean, it was true. So I was like, all right.
It's absolutely true. So before we press record, you were sharing with me this concept, and this is not the name. This is not a real name, you guys. We don't have a name for this. We're just making up the concept. Okay. So don't get hung up on the name. And you were talking about like normal privilege. So you said you went from when you had weight on you, you said you definitely were on the radar, but you were on the radar for people treating you poorly for all the reasons we talked about. Then you kind of like went to this space of like normal privilege or like just normality. And you noticed a difference from that to this. And then you lost more weight and then it bumped up to like advantages. Can you talk about that?
So I'm going to read the definition in my book that I say of normal privilege. So it's the advantage of being believed to belong wherever I am, the ability to move through the world freely without the burden of proving my belonging and without facing mental, physical, or social boundaries, scrutiny, or threats to my person because of some aspect of my appearance. So that's what I define normal privilege as.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Don't put the book down. We gotta dissect that. Wait, that was good. Okay. So the first part was, say it again.
So the advantage of being believed to belong wherever I am.
Pause. Evie. That's so profound. Because that means that in a heavier body, you didn't have that feeling.
You go into a store, they're like, we don't sell nothing that fits you while you in here. Like, you know, all the kind of things that happen to people.
What other things would happen? I'm so fascinated and heartbroken. I actually feel myself tear up a little bit when you
get feel a little strange, but like I just remember when I was younger, like, and it didn't really happen in DC or around like, you know, heavily Black environments. But I just remember when I was younger, like in traveling with my family, white people looking at me like I was a monster, or like looking at me, or like moving away from me, or like just like, and I had a lot going on, my skin, and I had a lot going on, but also like I was a person. But I feel like, and Issa Rae talks about this in her book, which I quote my book, but I don't remember where it is, but about like when you deprive someone of reflections of them, which media had deprived a lot of brown people who don't fit a certain aesthetic of reflections of them, you make them into a monster, because monsters in a lot of horror films don't have a reflection. When someone cannot see themselves, you deprive them of affirming, first of all, that they exist, but also that they are okay the way that they are. And so I feel like,
oh my God, I don't know why this is.
But I feel like, you know, white people also don't see this reflection. When there's not representation and they are not in these communities, they don't see someone who used to look the way that I look. So to them, and this, I mean, obviously I'm giving grace. I don't know these people, like, but to them, I look like something they've never seen before. And so the shock, the horror, but I do feel like there were instances in my life where I felt that like I wasn't a person, I was a thing to people, and they moved away from me like I was like some kind of like, I don't know, like a a bear or something. So yeah.
That made me so emotional. Not made. It's making me emotional. It's making me sad for many reasons. I'm just going to say this and then I want to get back to you answering the question. I think it's making me tear up because one, I never thought about that. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I've made it to year 48 of my life and I've never had to think about that is a privilege in itself. So that's what made me tear up because I was like, what? And then also being a woman that grew up in the Caribbean, all I saw was me reflected back everywhere, every poster, every senator, every governor, every police officer, every teacher, and white people were the minority. So I just cannot imagine.
And so because I grew up in D.C. where Black people, at least when I grew up, were the vast majority, I did not experience that much at home. I mean, there were issues about like you're fat, whatever, but not that othering of like you're not human.
Yeah,
you are a threat. You are a monster. Not in DC ever growing up.
That makes me. I don't know. My body just feels like. I think my body's reacting because my body just wants to reject the entire concept entirely. So I don't know if I want to throw up or cry. So anyway, well, we're gonna go back. Okay, so that was your experience when you were younger. Yeah. And then so your definition said belonging. Read a little bit more of the definition.
Okay, so then the second part of the definition, so that was 1. And then 2 was the ability to move through the world freely without the burden of proving my belonging and without facing mental, physical, or social boundaries, scrutiny, or threats to my person because of some aspect of my appearance.
That is...
And so I feel like, and later on this chapter, I talk about, so I've always felt like my sister was dramatic about her interactions with people and her perceptions of people. And it wasn't until my 30s when I recognized because she is taller and wider and browner than me, she moves through the world in a different way than I do. And so her perceptions of people are based on how they treat her, and they treat her different. And I talk about this in the book. There was an instance where my mom and my sister were up visiting me around Christmas time. We ran into one of my friends who my sister had met before. They were friendly, and her cousins who I had met before were always so kind to me. And I just remember we were all standing around my sister and my friend who were very similar in personality, and they were just kind of like talking back and forth. And I was just so amused because it was like the same person in 2 different bodies. And so that was my perception. But as I looked, I'm an observer, an introvert observer. But as I looked around the circle, her cousins were like, oh, mean mugging my sister. And I'm just like, they don't know my sister. All in this moment they know about my sister is that she is very similar in personality to the cousin that they love, that they are here to visit, and anything about her appearance. And so I was like, it was like somebody had given me like corrective lenses. Like, you don't know how other people treat her because you aren't her. You don't move through the world the way that she does. And even, to this day, we were somewhere and she said, somebody said something or did something to her, and I feel like I reacted, and she just kind of like brushed it off. And because as it was like normal, it had been normal to her because this is the way that she has moved through the world, most of her life. And so I was like, wow. And so it really just spoke to me about believing people about their experiences and not downplaying. And this is a note for white people too.
Well,
you don't know someone's experiences, their interactions with people, if you do not navigate the world in the skin, in the body, in the class, all of these different things that define us in this country and in this world. You don't know anybody's experience. Y'all can be identical twins and may have different experiences based on how your persona, the way you style yourself, all of these things. But yeah.
That's why you have to believe Black women. I'm going to say, because it's my channel. That's why you have to believe Black women, because intersectionality gives us less, not no, but less blind spots. We have less blind spots, okay? And so if you are walking through the world in any privileged position, which we all are privileged. I am not disabled. I have a son with a wheelchair. I am not using a wheelchair. There is a blind spot that comes with that privilege. And when you identify a privileged position in a social hierarchy, the best thing for you to do is sit with somebody who does not have that privilege and listen to their lived experience. Listen to them, because one of my pet peeves, I said this on a video years ago about privilege when I actually made a video about it. And I was like, you can't know what you don't know. Exactly what you were just saying. You literally can't walk through the world in that person's experience. So if somebody is telling you their lived experience, the gift you can give them is to listen wholeheartedly and understand that it is their experience, period. And never turn to somebody and be like, well, that person didn't treat me that way. Well, I've never had that happen to me, so it must be something you did. Well, what did you do to cause them to? 100%. I showed up in a larger body or a taller body or a blacker body or a female body or a disabled, like I showed up in a different presentation than you. And I literally had a different experience. I could talk about that all day, because that irks me.
100.
That irks me. When I hear somebody say it, especially when they're sitting on top of 17 privileges.
It's like, how would you know?
How would you actually know? Like, it's just
just be quiet. And the thing is, if you can't be empathetic or sympathetic, just be quiet.
Listen. I'm telling you, find you somebody with all the intersectionalities. I'm talking about, I'm about to go find you a dark-skinned Black woman who uses like crutches, who's like LGBTQ, non-Christian, like find somebody who's really living this thing out in our Western society and just sit at their feet and be like, what's the tea? What are we?
What is the world? What is life?
What are we missing? What are we missing? How are people treating you when you walk into that building? Are they even acknowledging your presence? Because even in this conversation with you, Evie, and I've never lived in a larger body, because even when I weigh a lot, it doesn't read. I'm 6'1", and the way that my weight, I have a frame. It's kind of like when you were saying that when you're a certain weight, you look like super gaunt. I don't like to be in the 170s, which sounds crazy to people. But when I get in the 170s, the little bit of lumps and bumps that I have, and I don't have that many,
same,
they disappear. And I don't want it. You know what I mean? I come from the Virgin Islands. I have a Caribbean background. I grew up with the glorification of big body gal, Coca-Cola bottle shape and all of that. And I didn't have it. Okay. I was a stick. I was a twig. So thank God for like model aesthetic, right? And pageants, because at least I could put myself in that lane. But I don't like to be in the 170s or below. Once I start getting, like, my sweet spot is 185. So between like 185, 195 to 2, you can't tell me nothing. Now I'm a little bigger than I want to be. I love how I look right now, but the reason I don't like to be this big is because it has some clothes that I can get on, and I like specific pants and stuff that I'm just like, right? So people in this body, even in this body, like, I'm missing all kinds of stuff. You're sitting here telling me stuff, and I'm just like, girl, when I tell you I never thought of it, Nobody's done that to me. I would have never known that. And you actually make me want to bust out crying right now, because what the hell? Like, I want to punch somebody in the, sorry.
Listen, it's good in some ways that I don't live where my sister lives, and that I'm not in a lot of places that she's in. Because like, even so, I come home a lot, especially because she's been pregnant. She's pregnant. Well, she might not be pregnant anymore in this moment.
The baby might be here right now.
Might be here. But she she's this way about me, which I appreciate, because I don't know anybody else in the world that's like this about me. She don't play about me, and I don't play about her. Like, I really feel like I would be a different person if I was around her. And I feel like I'm like that with my niece and nephew, because they are little chocolate drops. They do have 4C hair, And, you know, there was a couple years ago where a family member said something about the girl's hair. And I expressed myself a little strongly, and they took it as disrespect because they're an elder. And it's like, listen, I feel like our parents did not speak up for us. And these kids, they are little chocolate drops with 4C hair in this world, in this country, in this city. At least at home, they're going to be affirmed in that. They're going to feel proud of that. They're going to love themselves. I don't know what's going to happen outside. We know that could be a whole bag of tricks, but you're going to be affirmed here. You're going to leave this house believing that you are the end all be all, that you are beautiful, that you are, you know, seen and all these things. Like, get out of here. But yeah, anyway. Yeah,
no, I understand. That's the way that my son is set up. I know it when he go out into the world. If anybody try to say, I'm doing the same thing my mother's doing. That little boy in a wheelchair, he's sick of me. Ain't nobody better. Ain't nobody cuter. Ain't nobody smarter. Ain't nobody more curious. Oh my God, you're so. What an amazing use of that word. You are amazing. He's so sick of me. I'm sure that he's gonna be confused if somebody says something negative to him. He's gonna be like, "What are you talking to?" And that was like my mother. I need to tone it down because when I tell you, I affirm that kid all day and all night because just like you said, I'm like, I got me a little brown boy in a wheelchair. Yeah. And I'm just like, the world is already telling me it's going to be unkind. I'm not going to be unkind. And you're right. Unfortunately, a lot of us, the call was coming from the inside of the house. There's a lot of internalized anti-Blackness that our generation, well, I don't know. Are you my generation? Are you millennial? I
am a millennial. Right? Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not X. I identify as Gen X, but I am not. I'm not Gen X.
So like this grouping of us, the Gen X, the millennial, this
elder millennials, they're called.
Right. We all are basically blocking. It's like we're all doing this collective shift of the trajectory of how we get to show up in these specific bodies in the world. And sometimes that does mean pushing an elder who's saying wild stuff.
I'm like, why are we talking about her hair? She's one. Like, and she had a little cute little fro. I'm like, well, you want like, and I was saying because I, you know, as the family hairdresser, or kitchen beautician, like I had tried to like, you know, even hovering your hand over her head. She's like, you don't even touch her. And so this was how she was when she was really little. And so my sister said to her, she was like, oh, she doesn't like to have her hair done. She was like, well, we want to break her out of that. And I'm like, we're not gonna break her out of nothing, especially not at one. Why are we looking at her hair? Like, and so I don't play about them kids or my sister. And I know that that's part of a trauma response of, you know, not feeling protected as a kid. But yeah, it's some stuff we got to break out of. And I really feel like we have broken out of the colorism thing, but I feel like Gen Z or whatever this younger generation is trying to bring it back. And I'm just like, I thought we were out of this.
Let me say something. Sometimes when you out here on the internet, especially, I can't believe you just said this, but you said it, so I'm going to bring it up. As one of the founding members of the online natural hair movement back in the day, like the online natural hair
are. You 100% are. Right?
The way that I be clutching my pearls when I'm on like TikTok and stuff, and in my head I'll be thinking, we did not put our 2 megapixel cameras in these medicine cabinets and jump on YouTube and educate y'all for y'all to be talking like that, like for y'all to be regressing.
Just undoing everything.
Like there's so much regression, but at the same time, you heard me say, "Girl, I'm breathing on 50 neck." I alley-ooped it over to people years ago, and I hope everybody's okay because I don't know if you see my hair. My hair is doing well. Okay, so every man for himself and God for us all. But the regression sometimes, I'll be like, "Why y'all choosing regression?"
How did we get here? Like, I know that's not what y'all learned. Like, how did we jump back to
backward?
I don't know.
Backward. Okay, so now that you just made me like totally verklempt about your beautiful definition of normal privilege. Let's go to pretty privilege real quick, even though I know you don't love the conversation, but you do love the conversation because it's part of your lived experience of it, okay? And we're going to talk about it, and Evie going to force me to talk about my experience with pretty privilege too, even though I don't like to say nothing on the internet, because the minute you say anything out here on the internet about this, people be like, well, you ain't pretty. Where's the pretty woman?
People warriors.
You'd be like, dang, I mean, I know.
Like, relax.
So you finally got to people basically treating you like a human being.
Right.
And then right, which is what normal privilege is, being treated equitably like you're a human being worthy of being treated well,
Yeah.
which is what made me clear up. And I was just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So then you lost some more weight, and then what happened?
And then it went to and I guess, you know, with the advantages of like people giving you stuff, holding doors, saying nice things, that's nice. But also I think it came with a level of feeling like prey when it came to the male gaze. And that was very jarring and uncomfortable, like being followed, being handled like by strangers. It's like, why are you touching me? And I just remember one time, like, and because I'm in my mind, I'm still, you know, what I was. And so I like snap back, like, what are you doing? And this person like grabbed me up like he was about to like take me out of here. Like,
oh my God.
And just the recognition of like, oh, there's a level of unsafety in this. And so I think that probably led to me like, you know, dressing more modestly and doing things to then like hide in a way, because I feel like it was jarring in a way. But, you know, again, plenty of advantages.
Like, you know, what? Tell me what advantages you noticed, because you're probably going to say stuff that I don't even realize is advantages. Tell me.
I mean, you know, just
like you just said people holding the door open for you. And I was like,
I mean, listen,
they didn't hold the door open before?
It's a long time ago, but from what I remember, not really. It was different. I feel like, you know, being on a listserv and someone saying, oh, they're looking for pretty people or models, and you sending off some selfies you took on your camera, and then them saying, oh, you've been chosen to be a model on the Today Show. I feel like that's an advantage. Like,
well,
and never having had any modeling experience. And, you know, stuff like that, you know, just the ability or opportunities to be seen and to be chosen for things that like you wouldn't have before, I guess.
Right.
And I guess also probably increased or widened dating opportunities, dating pools, which that's a whole nother conversation.
But did that feel unsafe to you? Because you just said that there was a feeling of like the male gaze was increased, right? Mm-hmm. And therefore you were perceiving that as unsafe.
Unsafe in the way that like people like following me home, which right. I mean that happened.
Literally unsafe, yeah.
Yeah, no, like I literally remember. This is when I lived in D.C. And so I was walking. I think I was walking from work. I was walking from the bus stop home, and I like maybe 2 blocks away. I passed this like 70s looking van, you know, that has like just the windows in the front, and it was like stopped at the stop sign. I was like, that's weird, you know, intuition. But it was just like sitting there. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home, whatever. And so I walked the last 3 blocks to my house. I'm walking, I'm standing talking to my neighbor, and the van, I saw it go up the street and something, but then I saw it pull up in front of my house, and a man get out and start walking up the walkway towards me. And my neighbor, who I was talking to, thank God, she sat there. I mean, she stood there and she just like looking. And he's like, I just seen you. And I was like, wait. And then I started putting 2 and 2 together. I was like, did you just follow? And I started getting up. I was like, did you just follow me home? He was like, nah, I just seen you and I needed you to know that I seen you and like take my number. And like that felt like, now you know where I live. This is a house. This is not an apartment building where you got to see like. And so it was like, I mean, there are other instances, you know, late at night being followed. Like, I remember this happened 8 years ago. This is the last time that it was like a startling thing. And like a couple weeks after that, I cut my hair off. And I think in response, in addition to a lot of other things going on, I lived in a crazy living situation, was in a crazy relationship, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so, but I think that was part of it, because I was walking down the street from church. I had on like a dress that came down to my knees. I had on a cardigan covering my arms. I had my hair slicked back in a bun. Like I looked like a teacher in my estimation, therefore not putting myself out there as someone who you follow, who you know, objectify in this way. Like,
It shouldn't matter, but unfortunately.
yeah, it shouldn't. It really shouldn't. But in my mind, I was safe.
Yeah.
And I was not safe. And so I literally remember I was walking down the street. This was in Brooklyn, walking home. I decided to walk home from church. And this got another 70s van. Why is it always these people in these 70s van? And he's like saying all this stuff. And I'm like, he's like, you want to ride? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm walking. I'm good. So he's being very persistent. I'm like, if you could just keep moving, like, I'm just going to walk. I'm good. And so he would not go away. And like, he started going slower. And like, I was feeling like he might come out of the car.
Right.
So, so I was really like, I think before I was concerned, like when it happened before I was concerned, but I wasn't afraid. I was afraid because I looked around and on a Brooklyn block on a Sunday afternoon, nobody, not a human being was anywhere in sight. And I was like, oh my God, like this could be a thing. And so literally out of nowhere, I don't know if this lady was an angel. This woman came up, placed herself between me and the van and just walked, didn't say nothing, just walked, didn't even look back at me, just walked. And it was a white woman. And I think she was being not an advocate, was it an ally in that moment. And a couple seconds later, he drove away. And she turned back. She was like, some people just don't know how to take no for an answer, you know? And I was like, I really appreciate it. Like she didn't even say anything. She just placed herself between me and the van.
Yeah.
He drove away.
Wow. Yeah,
Girl, we going all over the world, and I know we're going to come back again, but this is all over. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's interesting to me. I mean, I think it's interesting because it has to do with social perception and messaging and living in a body and how it's perceived and all of these like things you were just saying about, you know, I looked like a teacher. I felt like how I dressed the way they told me to be safe. And it wasn't a safe feeling. And I was sitting here thinking about how there was a person that used to call my house when I was a teenager and basically tell me what I had done that day. And it never even dawned on me how unsafe that was until later. Now, I did at one point tell them to stop calling.
Yeah.
Right. So I used to talk to this person because I was a kid and I was innocent. And I would talk to this person and they would tell me like, oh, I saw you by this, like Marianne. I saw you in Marianne's this afternoon after school, or I saw you, whatever. And I would be like talking. And then one day they had said something to me. And I said, you're scaring me. Please stop calling me. And then they stopped calling me. And back then, it's weird because like I'm trying to put myself back in the mind where I was. Back then, I had a lot of admirers. I did. I used to get a lot of attention from people. And I had just chalked that person up to one of the many.
Admire, one of the many.
Right. So I always conceptualize this person as a peer. As in another teenager that was doing the phone call. I kid you not, Evie. It wasn't until I was clear into my adulthood that it dawned on me that could have been a grown adult talking to me on that phone. And I was such an innocent, and I just thought, okay, this is just some like creepy dude at another school that sees me. I'm on an island. It's small. Back then we had phone books. It's not that hard to find a person's phone number, call them on the phone. They keep calling my house. I tell them to stop. They stop. I never got a phone call from that person again. So I just thought it was a kid. It literally, like you were just talking, and I was just like, that could have been a whole adult stalking me. That could have been a whole adult stalking me.
And I think that's grace sometimes, because I feel like I look back at so many instances where I wasn't aware and I was like, oh, yo, that could have been a thing. But like, I am grateful that I was so naive for so long and, you know, for lack of a better word, ignorant in some regards, because I think it kept me from being jaded and perhaps bitter, which I might be a taint of that in other areas because of, you know, experiences in my later 30s, especially post-pandemic. But I'm grateful for the veil being what it was for so long because, you know, yeah.
Okay, so we're at the end of the hour. I'm gonna keep talking to you for a little bit longer if you don't mind. Do you mind? Great. That's great. Like to hear it go. Okay, so what else do you want to talk about when it comes to body image and I see on your page you talk about surviving body negativity or just anything when it comes to your wellness journey in that space.
So I want to say, I think that the beginning of my wellness journey was about my health, weight loss wellness journey was about um, being able to save my own life in an extreme circumstances, like being stranded on a mountain, whatever needed to happen to get it going. And then I think in my 20s, it was more about vanity and like being able to attract the people that I wanted to attract, to have the opportunities that I wanted to have, etc. Or like the maintenance of that once I saw what it was or what it could be. And I think in my 30s, it was really, I was affirmed in at least the healthy part of it because, you know, the health outcomes that are prevalent in my family, like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart issues, and, you know, premature death, the things I saw growing up, like people taking insulin, amputations, blindness. As a kid, I really thought, like, I was so afraid of being blind. Like, I remember when I would get like soap in my eyes, I would just be like screaming because I thought that it was genetic. I didn't realize that it was like an outcome of like diabetes or whatever. And so I see in my 30s, like it was really about longevity and about freedom and like a lifestyle choice. In addition to, like, I like to be able to, you know, put it together when I feel like it. But more so just avoiding and mitigating the possibility of certain health outcomes that are prevalent, not just in my family, but I think in our community. And so, yeah, I'm grateful for that, but I feel like I want to start talking about, or I am starting to talk about it now because I see so many things in my family and people that I know, people just having health outcomes that are avoidable. And that, you know, I feel like prevention is a big thing. And I think so many people feel like because something runs in their family that, you know, they're next in line to get it. They're next in line to inherit. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. And I think I probably didn't talk about my health journey for so long because I was just like, how long am I going to be able to do this? Like, I mean, because, you know, they say people who lose an extreme amount of weight, they gain it back within 5 years. Thank God that has not been my testimony, but I think I was always like waiting, like, okay, how long am I going to be able to do this? And so, you know, it's been 21 years at this point. I feel like, praise God, hopefully we in here. But yeah, I feel like there's so much societal messaging around health and wellness that my experience has proven to be inaccurate.
Like what? Tell me something.
This obesity is a disease thing. This message that is circulating now, I'm just like, I feel like when you say something is a disease, you strip people of their agency and you make people feel like there's nothing you can do about it but take this pill. And so I feel like obesity and other health outcomes are a symptom of the crappy food that we have, of toxins in the environment, of the stress that a lot of people are under. I really do think for a lot of people, diabetes comes down to being very, very stressed. I mean, carbs and sugar don't help, but I think it's more stress than a lot of those things, if not, you know, as much as. And so I think it's a symptom. And I think you can tell that it's a symptom because when you go to other countries, you don't see people walking around the way they're walking around here, where the food is not crap. I went to Portugal a couple of years ago, and I remember I wanted some Cheetos, but I was like, girl, you on vacation, like just eat healthy. Like, you don't need some Cheetos. But I wish I had gotten the Cheetos because I didn't recognize that, like, the same American foods that we have here, the junk foods, there's stuff that's outlawed there. They can't put in their food. So it would have tasted and looked like a different Cheeto than the Cheetos here because there are things that European government or whatever will not allow their citizens to ingest. And yeah, that's a whole bag. But just, I guess the point that just because something runs in your family doesn't mean that it has to be your destiny. It has to be on the trajectory of your life. But also that there's a guy that I follow called John Gabriel, and he talks about emotional obesity. And that is the need to be fat to feel safe. And I feel like for some time, and I think a lot of people operate this, whether subconsciously or consciously, it's a safety mechanism. It's a coping mechanism for unsafe environments, maybe unsafe homes, maybe stressful circumstances, stressful relationships, stressful neighborhoods, stressful jobs. And so I guess addressing the root causes. Because what I realized after I lost so much weight is that all these things that I thought were wrong with me, and all of the things that I thought were because of my weight were actually symptomatic of, or my weight was symptomatic of all of these other things. Trauma, unhealed trauma, and feeling unsafe in the world and in, my circles and spaces. Also carbs and sugar, like that didn't help. I love a cookie. I love a piece of cake. But I think the other things being the bigger part of the puzzle that is never addressed because people can't monetize that.
Facts. I think that Western medicine is impeccable at treating emergent issues, right? When my son's leg was broken in October, I don't want you to give me a tea or an essential oil. I need you to rush this
100%.
child to the hospital and put a blasted cast on his leg. Okay. They know what to do when the ish hits the fan, sort of.
Yeah.
Because I've had issues there too.
Yeah.
However, Western medicine does not profit literally and figuratively from preventing us from these ailments. And so some of the most obvious issues, like the integration of your spirit, your mind, and your physical outcomes, aren't even addressed in our medical system. It's like, I treat your heart. Take these pills. And you're just like, well, why is this person having the heart? Like nobody's right. So I 1,000% agree with you on that. The other thing that you said that was so interesting, I'm not going to go into it too much because you kind of stepped on my toe, but we going to just, okay. Oh, okay. Listen, so I don't know if I've shared this before. I might have shared it, but I'm going to share it a little bit more now because it goes into the body image and the symptom, the fact that your physical expression can be a symptom of something spiritual and mental going on, right? So several years ago, I had gotten a message from somebody in my family. I went home when my dad passed. Somebody said something to me. It basically rang true of messaging I gotten from a bunch of other people. Same message, different words, sick of hearing it. Brought it to my therapist. Why everybody keep telling me this? Why everybody keep telling me this, right? I'll give you one example. I had a business coach who said, your beauty is a tool that you are not using. So I got that message from people everywhere. I was so sick of it. I was so sick of hearing it, Evie. I was so sick of it. So one of my family members said something in that space because when I went to the Virgin Islands, unbeknownst to me, apparently people watch these videos and I was getting recognized all over the place.
Local celebrity.
And I wasn't expecting that. Who you talking to? I'm just here trying to eat my mango and mind my business, right? So I'm getting stopped and stuff. So anyway, I come back, I tell the therapist, I'm sick of hearing this. I've been hearing this from people in various ways over the years. I want to deep dive into this. We deep dive into this issue. And we basically come up with the fact that I have body image issues. And I have body image issues. You ready for this? Because I resent what I look like. And so I am trying to downplay my physicality.
Yeah.
So that people can see how funny I am and how smart I am. Because I'm sick of y'all making comments about my clavicle. I see them, okay? But you mean I'm out here
close to the camera, like
that's what I see.
Give it to them, Roshini. Give it to them.
I see them, okay? And apparently, girl, me and my therapist was in here fighting for our lives. Okay, we was fighting for our lives on these virtual. It was a virtual. It was pandemic. I said, apparently, I had internalized negativity about my body.
Yep.
Not because of weight, because people were telling me I was up here, and people were elevating what I looked like over what I thought was most important, which was my intellect and my humor. And so I was literally shrinking myself back and intentionally showing up any old kind of how, any old kind of raggedy how.
I know that life.
and was just like, it's not even that important. I don't even, it was, listen, and when I tell you that, therapist turned me every way, which way but loose on
Mm-hmm.
these calls, trying to get me to understand that that was a body image issue,
Yeah.
that this is the body that I'm living in. And I was just, because who wants to walk around thinking that? So it's
Right.
fascinating, these conversations I'm having with you, because I developed my own version of body image issues from a whole different vantage point of like kind of being sick of being perceived as the tall, pretty girl, which I know somebody on the internet, be, she ain't that pretty. Shut your face, okay? I could get free stuff. Y'all ain't getting
No, but peep how.
legs. Y'all can't see these legs. People pay for stuff. That was my norm.
Right.
Hello. So that was my norm. So
Right.
I started to try to turn that off. And my therapist and I had to really go into the root of why I was showing up that way.
Yep.
He's the one that told me that that would be considered body image issues. And I was like, no, it's not. And he was like, yes, it is. Isn't that fascinating?
No, but peep how on both ends, when I was saying earlier about the dehumanization, I think it's dehumanization on the other end too, because people are not considering the totality of your person. They're looking at your appearance and elevating it, yes, but also I feel like with the elevation, there are some negative aspects of that too. Like, I'm literally a human being. I'm also smart and all these things. So yes, we want you to consider the totality of who you are, including these three things. They're not considering that. All like looking at you as a statue, as a picture of whatever it is in their mind that you represent. And so,
you just made me think of, oh my God. So I have this thing when I think about privilege in the sense of like race, right? Whiteness, blackness, male, female. Let's just go there, right? So in our culture, white is above black socially. We hate it. Men above women, patriarchy, right? The whole thing. And I have often thought to myself, to enjoy the spoils of privilege, you have to be willing to give up something, right? There's a light and a shadow of everything. And there's a light side of privilege, like whiteness. But on the other side, there's plenty of white people living in America where if I ask them, what's your ethnicity? They don't know. So they out here trying to yell out, white, be proud of whiteness. And I'm just like, no, get a flag. Like,
where's
be proud of your ethnic. Yeah, like, where's your family from? And they're like, I don't know. Because you kind of have to give up a thing to enjoy some of these privileges. And then when it goes to like patriarchy, like men are taught to, from an early age, to shut off a natural part of their humanity, specifically the emotional ways that we get love and connect, so that they can get the spoils of privilege. You literally just said that, and I thought, oh my God, she's right. Because part of the shadow side of being the tall, pretty, beauty queen chick is people tend not to believe you. People tend not to listen to you. You become Black Barbie, which is what I used to consider myself back in the day. I used to consider myself Black Barbie. And I did a whole lot of unraveling of Black Barbie. And my therapist was like, I think you took it too far. He was like, girl, you went too far with the unraveling.
No, come back, Roshini. But no, what you said just made me think of this guy that I didn't work with him, but he worked in the same building I worked in. And he was like, I guess he was somebody important, but like, I feel like he was used to brown. I'm from D.C. again, where everybody was Black. The mayor, my principals, like everybody was Black. I did not see whiteness as something that was above me. And so I interacted with everyone, on a cordial level. Good morning. How are you? And I feel like he was a person that was used to dealing with Black people who cowered, especially, I guess, given his position. And he was a smaller man, so I think that had something to do with it. But I just, like, there were a couple instances where it was clear that he had something out for me. And I'm just like, so what is your problem? I don't even work for you. Like, what? Like, I don't have any reason to interact with you beyond good morning and goodbye. And that I feel like is a courtesy, especially based on how you're interacting with me. And so then I said to my boss, and I said, I think I moved through the world, or at least at the time, I moved through the world, and I worked for an organization where for the first time I felt free to be my entire self, to wear my head wraps to work when I was going to wear my different lip colors, all the things. And so I said, as a white man, and especially in a certain position, all of these, like, I guess, liberties that I take to express myself through the way that I dress, to the way that I speak, all these things, he doesn't take or feel free to maybe be his entire self. He's very locked into a certain way of expression, be that in the way that he dresses, the way he cuts his hair, the way he, moves through the world, the way he speaks. And so I don't know if I represented something to him that, like, shined a light on the fact that he was repressed. But that's what I took it as. Because I was like, there's literally no reason for you to have anything against me. Like, I am cordial and even kind to you, and I don't work for you.
I had a white man at work tell me that he was afraid of me. So, and then later on, during a meeting, by the way, and then later on, when we became like work friends, I confronted him and asked him what the hell, because that's who I am. And he told me he didn't say it. And then I was like, that's a life in the pits of hell. And then he came back later and told me he did say it. He thought about it. He does remember saying it. And the reason he said it was he noticed that I carry myself different than all the other Black people in the office. And he specifically took the example of coming down the hallway. He was like, I never noticed this until you asked me this question. But when you're coming down he was like, so other Black people, when they come toward me, they move out of my way and they divert their gaze. And he was like, you don't. He was like, you come down the hall. And I remember I cut him off and said, like, it's a fashion show. Because it is. And I was like, and I'm a woman and you're a man. So if anybody's supposed to move out the way, 'tis you. And I remember telling him, I was like, so basically what you're feeling is where I'm from, which is a Caribbean, I'm you. That's what I told him. And he was like, what do you mean by that? And I was like, it's a social cultural thing. I don't have whatever you're talking about. Anyway, so yeah, the person you were talking about at work, there may have been some feeling of threat because of how your presence showed up in the space. Because this man flat out, he and I used to have these conversations back in the day, to the point where we'd be laughing. Because like I'd be typing and one of the coworkers would be scowling at me. And I'd be like, what the hell he looking at? And my coworker, who eventually became my friend, he would turn to me and be like, I don't know, maybe he don't like Black people. And I'm like, well, that's raggedy, but also probably true, right? Because your dumb butt said that dumb stuff to me. So yeah, he might have just felt something.
But people, I also was not aware of or did not recognize mistreatment until my 30s, being about anything other than my weight.
You're right. It's so
even racism went over my head when people were treating me negatively because I was Black. Other than those instances I mentioned earlier when I was younger, where it was clear, I just assumed it was because of my weight. I was not aware of,
You couldn't tell the difference because it was all one thing. It's like me being a first-time mom and me being a special needs mom. Yeah. I don't know the difference.
They're yeah.
I can't tell you which was which.
Right. And so in my mind, my dad grew up in South Carolina. So I was very aware of his stories of racism and even how I felt when I would visit South Carolina, and some stories and lessons that I had from that. But I was not aware, don't come for me, guys. I was not aware that racism was a living, breathing thing and something that impacted me personally and all of these brown people until my 30s, until I moved to the north, until I moved up north from D.C.
Thank you for saying that, because Caribbean people kind of have a similar experience, and we are getting dragged for filth on TikTok for not understanding a lived experience that we could only know unless we move up here.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know? I didn't know, right? Like what you just said, I literally had that. I remember coming up here to Missouri, going to Lake Christopher, being called a J word, a digging blue, right? And looking around and thinking, oh my God, who are they talking to like that? That is wild. And then realizing it was me. I was the only brown person. And then calling my mother, not even that offended, but like perplexed. And I was like, it's 1952 up here. I thought I had went back in time. In my mind, that was like something in the history books. I didn't know people were still out here calling slurs.
It wasn't until my 30s. And it's like, I mean, there were like little instances, like when I was a kid, like this girl asked to see something of ours, and she said something, she went Black all over her. And it was like, again, growing up in DC, it was weird. It was like, that's so weird. I didn't feel a way about it because it didn't tap on any pre-existing like thing that I had about myself. It just was like, that was so strange. Why she say that? But it was literally, it wasn't until I went to college in Pennsylvania and then I moved to New York that I really started to be like, oh, and also the weight was no longer an issue. So I knew that it wasn't because of that. And so unpacking that oh, this perhaps is about race. But then, you know, at this point, it's just like, that person's just a jerk. I don't know if they're a jerk because I'm Black or they're a jerk for whatever other reason. But I mean, they're not treating me well. Like, I can take that information and do with it what I will. But, you know, I said that to my mom and she was like, you know, I think the same thing. Because my mom, you know, my family members all, you know, have their particular struggles with, I guess, weight, for lack of a better phrase. And so she said the same thing. She did not recognize a lot of what were probably racist instances in her life because she assumed that people were not treating her well because of her weight. Right. I was like, that is so fascinating.
Listen, these are the things that I've never thought of. Okay, Evie, I'm going to stop our video because you guys, as you could probably tell, me and Evie could talk forever.
I know. And my niece is here.
Me and this woman jumped on a Zoom call and ran our mouths. I don't even know how long we were talking. And I was
it was 2.5 hours. Because I was like, it was 7:30.
You got to tell the people how long it was. Evie,
I'm sorry.
I kind of like her. Anyway, I knew it though, because I told you from the comment section. I was like, I could tell when I like somebody. But here's the thing, you guys. I'm gonna film another video with her at some point, and I'm gonna be on her page. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to send you guys to her YouTube channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the whole thing. Go subscribe to her channel. Okay. The types of topics that we're talking about here is the types of stuff that she wants to talk about. She wants to help people on a wellness journey. And so go and subscribe on YouTube. You can find her on IG. It's Evie Scott Free on both platforms. Okay. And so we can continue this conversation on another platform, on another video, because I know me, I'm gonna run my mouth all day because I like you very much. Okay. And I can talk to a platform. And you know what? You know what's fascinating? There's so many layers to our physical body and how we show up. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, Evie. I know good and full well that I use my natural hair as a shield. I like it very much.
Yeah.
I like the natural hair, just like how you were saying the weight was like a protective thing. I feel like having my hair in this state repels a certain type of person.
100%.
And I'm actually not mad at that.
100%.
I'm perfectly fine with it. I'm just like, please be gone.
Yeah, I feel that.
Gone immediately. So that's, I get that entirely. And the fact that, you know, you can use weight in a similar sense, not necessarily always, you know, it's not always positive. It could.
And it's not always conscious, I don't think. I do think.
The hair thing for me is conscious. It wasn't conscious when I first started. I didn't do my hair like this to do that. But I noticed the difference and was like, I like it very much.
Same.
I don't want nobody who don't think that this is a thing. Matter of fact, if you don't like it, I don't like it.
Because it has layers. It has a lot of layers. The people who don't like it, they got some other stuff going
on. And I peeped you immediately just by the hair. I peeped you by the hair. You know, like seriously, I as soon as you said it, I was like, I think my hair is a shield, and a shield I am perfectly content with having.
100%.
I haven't done it recently, but I'll shave my head bald.
Same.
That's another thing. Hair will be gone.
After cutting my hair off, like, and it took me years to get to a point because, like, I was like, I have a big head. It's like I just was in such a place in that time. Like when I cut my hair off, and I was like, oh, I actually look good with this, and it is not a shield, but it's a deterrent.
Hello.
I was like, I love this.
It's like a filter. It's a filter.
It's exactly.
I like immediately weed out so much of your westernized, colonized beauty standards.
So much.
And everything that comes with that. I don't want it. Right? I'm breathing on 50's neck. I don't have that many years left. I don't even want it. Like, please remove
yourself. Why would you say that? Why would you say you don't have that many years left?
I mean, I'm just saying I don't have that many years left.
Okay.
I don't know if I have 50 left. You think I'm going to do 50 more?
I don't know. I know people who live to be 100. I mean, I have an aunt right now who's 104. I have a cousin who lives to be 100.
I didn't really know if I was going to get 50 more out this job.
All right. You tell me what you want. I just was like, that just took me back a little bit.
I apologize, you guys. I didn't mean to profess that over myself. I was just doing the math, and my brain was like 50 plus 50 is 100.
It is.
It's 100, and that's a lot. Okay, anyway, you guys, as you can see, if you want to work with me as your coach, I have a coaching membership for Black and West Indian women on a healing journey. The link is in the information box, thepineapplecrowns.com. Evie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Roshini. This is not the end. This is just the beginning.
I know. All right. Oh, be well. I'm forgetting to give them their pineapple. Be encouraged. Here's a pineapple. Okay, bye, bye, bye.